Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and in this video we are going to create a template that we can use to, I don't know, just kind of build every other website that we ever want to build. This template is going to be easily modifiable, meaning we'll be able to completely change this template for each project we want to build. And yeah, I guess it's best if we just kind of get into it. So what I want to do is I want to build a website that has a header on the top, a navigation bar with some links below that. I want 3 columns in the middle of the web page, one that's about 25%, one in the middle it's about 50%, and then one on the right hand side that's about 25%. And then I want a footer on the bottom of the web page. So we're going to go ahead and build that page together right now. So let's see. First of all, we can get rid of the javascript.js. We don't need that. So now we have our index and style. And we can get rid of the JavaScript link here in the middle. So let's think about what our HTML should look like for this page. Let's see. So first, we're going to want a header. We're going to put the header inside of a div. And let's see. Inside this, we're just going to create, let's create an H2, H1 or H2, doesn't really matter. We'll call this header, H2. Okay, perfect. So that's our header div. Now I'm going to organize everything on this page inside of divs, except for the next thing we're going to do. The next thing I want to do, I'm actually just going to create an unordered list, UL. And the reason why I'm not organizing this in a div is because the unordered list kind of acts as a div by itself. So we can just ignore the div there. So inside of here, we're going to just create list items, and we're going to add some links, href equals, and we're going to put some dead links in there. This is going to be home, capitalize it, finish off the anchor element, and finish off the list item. And let's make 3 links. So I'm going to copy this. And instead of home, let's make this one media. All right. Now this is going to be our navigation bar. These are going to be the links that we use to get around on our page. And we can make as many of these as we want. Contact. I'm just going to put 3 on there for now. Okay, let me make sure I finish off my unordered list. Okay, so that's good to go. So now let's take a look and see what we have. So we have our header, and then we have our home, media, and contact links. Perfect. Okay, now we want our columns in the middle. The first thing we're going to want, though, is we want to put everything in our columns inside of a div. So each column is going to be its own div, and all 3 columns are going to go inside of an overall div. Now that bigger div, that overall div, that's going to basically be the row. All right. So then we'll have some columns here in the middle, and just put some content in there. Doesn't really matter. Let's create 3 of these. Okay. Now, believe it or not, we're almost done with all of the HTML on our page. The only thing we have left is a footer, which, yeah, let's use a paragraph element inside of our footer. Okay, so this is our entire web page in terms of HTML. We have a header, we have a navigation bar, content, and footer. Now, everything we do from now on is all going to be CSS. Watch how powerful CSS is and how easy it is for us to make this really boring looking website something that's incredible to look at, and makes it look like more of a really a like a modern web page, right? Okay. So first thing I want to do is I want to change the text, the font. I just want to do that right away. Usually websites don't have a serif font. Serifs are the little tails on the end of the letters. Most websites don't have serif fonts. They usually use sans serif. So I want to use something. I want to change the font to a sans serif font. I'm going to change this on the entire body. Font family. And I'm actually going to choose Arial Helvetica Sans Serif. So this will basically just set my entire page to use Arial. Okay, that looks a whole lot better to me. All right, next let's create a class for the header. And this class, let's change the background hyphen color. Let's set that to hex F0, 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 a nice gray, light gray. Let's change the padding to 30 pixels and the text align property to center. And then the font size to, let's say, 35 pixels. Now all this stuff you can change if you want to. It doesn't really matter. Now because we created it as a class, we need to apply that header class to the div in which our header resides. So class equals header. All right, let's go ahead and run this and see what that looks like. All right, well that looks pretty good. I'm liking that. That's pretty great. And we can actually, we can change anything we want about it. We can change the, we can put whatever we want inside this div and it will behave exactly like that. Okay. All right. So our header is done. Let's start styling our navigation bar. Okay. Here's what we need to do. Let's style the unordered list. Now, because we're not applying the styling per a class, we're just applying it to the unordered list itself. This could be an issue later on if we want to add another unordered list to our page. So you can do this differently. You can apply all the styling to a class and then apply the class. But for now, I'm just going to do the unordered list. Let's get rid of that dot. So this is going to be list hyphen style hyphen none. Okay. Oh no, list style type. Sorry, type none. That's what we're looking for. So that way we can get rid of the dot there. Let's run that. Make sure that worked. That did work. I don't know. My dog is okay. Whatever. So that's list style type none. My dog's kind of growling at me a little bit. Let's get rid of the padding. 0. Let's get rid of the margin. 0. Let's change the overflow property to hidden. And let's change the background hyphen color. And we'll do 333. Hold on one second. Go. She won't leave the room. Go. Go. There we go. She wouldn't leave the room. All right. So now let's run this and see what that is, what that looks like. Okay, so now we have a nice background color, but our text still doesn't look great. So here's what we want to do. Let's set our list items to float left. All right, let's try that. Okay, now they're in line. That's what we want. We want that. We're getting a little closer. Okay, now I want to set the list item anchor elements. So basically anchor elements inside of list items. Let's set their display property to be block. And we'll set the color to white so we can see them against the background. text align, center. Let's change the padding to 14 pixels on the top and bottom, and 16 pixels on the left and right. And then let's get rid of the underline. So text decoration, and we'll set that to none. All right, let's see what that looks like. Ooh, much, much better. Look at that. That looks way better. Okay, so now, let's see. The only thing that we have left to do is when I hover over these, I actually want to change the background color so that it looks like, so I can tell that I'm hovering on one of these objects. So that's pretty easy to do. Let's do LI and then A. And if I do this colon here and type hover, then that will allow me to change the hover property of an anchor element. And let's just change that background hyphen color to, let's do 111. Okay. All right. Now let's run that and see. Oh, that looks good. That looks really good. Okay, so I like that a lot. That looks really great to me. So now we have a navigation bar that we can use on our web page. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, next, let's get into this content here. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a class called column, which is going to basically set up all of our columns properly. It's going to set the float property to the left. It's going to set the padding to 10 pixels. And we'll set the height to 300. Yeah, 300. We'll do 300 pixels. Now that column class can be applied to anything that's going to be a column. But we also want to designate a separate class for columns that are going to be on the side that are skinnier, or columns in the middle that are a bit bigger. So we can do that by creating a class within a class. So a column.side class. This will be width 25%. And let's change the background color of that so that it's easier to see against the other columns. We're going to do this BA. So I'm just doing a bunch of gray tones on this because I don't want to actually style this page in any significant way, because this is just a template. If we style this page later when we're building an actual website, then we can come in here and change all the colors. Column dot middle. So we're going to have a middle column that's going to be 50%. So the width is going to be 50%. Background hyphen color. Let's set that to white. That's fine. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and apply these column classes to my HTML. Oop, hold on a second. So over here, we have our divs, these 3 divs inside of our main div. And I want this first one to be class equals column side, because I want it to be a side column. I want the middle to be column middle. And I want this to also be a column side. All right, so let's go ahead and run that code and see what that looks like. So as we can see, it kind of did what I wanted, but these stacked on top of each other. So let's figure out how to fix that. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we are going to change the box sizing element, or the box sizing attribute, for everything on our page. So we're going to use the asterisk. Asterisk basically just means everything on the page. So we're going to change the box sizing. And let's do border box. And let's run that. And now everything looks good. That looks good. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Perfect. Okay. One more thing. We have to get our footer taken care of. Alrighty. So footer. The footer class is pretty easy. Just going to be .footer. And let's set the background hyphen color. We'll set this to F0, F0, F0. And let's give it some padding. The padding, let's do 10 pixels. And text align. And we'll set that to center. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Let's go ahead and apply that footer to the footer class, or apply the footer class to the footer, better said. And let's run that. Okay, hello. It's not running. Let me run it again. Oh, there we go. So now we have a footer down here. We could put like, website made by yada, 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 whatever, right? But there's one more thing I want to change. There's only one more thing I want to fix. Notice that as I shrink the content on my page, my boxes get really, really small. They get really squished, right? I want to set this up so that if I'm looking at this on a cell phone, that the content boxes kind of stack on top of each other after the screen gets below a certain width. Okay, and this is actually pretty easy to do. In my style sheet, I want to designate, let's see, I want to say @ and we'll do media. And we're going to say max hyphen width. We'll say 600 pixels. How about that? So what this is going to do is this is going to say my max width for my media is going to be 600 pixels. So we're only going to access the media, whatever's inside of here, after, once we get smaller than 600 pixels. Okay. And we will set the column.side and column.middle classes to behave differently once that happens. And what we're going to do is we'll set their width to be 100%. Basically meaning I want those classes, instead of being 25 and 50%, to just be 100% and then take up the whole width of the column. All right, let's run that and see how that changes our behavior. So notice when I get under 600 pixels, it pops those columns underneath, which is exactly what I want. And I'm pretty sure you've seen that functionality before on a cell phone. When you're looking at a website on a cell phone, I'm sure you've seen it stack up like that. Okay. All right. Well, at this point, we have a template that we can use to build our websites. We have a navigation bar, we have a header, we have some content here. Now, I do want to point out that let's say you don't want, you're building a website and you only want this column and then you want a big column here. You don't want the right-hand column. Well, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is change the column middle to be 75% instead of 50. And then in your index, you just take out that extra div that you don't need, right? And if you want to add content into these, well, these are divs, so you can just add content into the divs. Okay? All right. Once you're happy with this, once it looks as good as mine does, go ahead and submit it, and I will see you in the next week.